This Week in Palestine offers news from a Palestinian perspective. The following hour may contain views that do not necessarily reflect those of WZBC, Boston College, or its Board of Trustees. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. This is your host, Juliette Salame Olivier. Welcome to This Week in Palestine. Today is Sunday, May 11th, 2025. This Week in Palestine offers news from a Palestinian perspective. The following hour may contain views that do not necessarily reflect those of WZBC, Boston College, or its Board of Trustees.
Well, I don't consider myself a religious man by any means anymore. But if there has to be one God in heaven that's real, well, I pray that it's yours. If you happen to be with the soul of our souls, tell her we all said hi. 'Cause I don't know if people like me can go where you've gone, but one day I'd love to stop on by, on my way to infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond, infinity and beyond, infinity and beyond. Well, I don't consider myself a generous man, even though that's what I've been told. 'Cause if I couldn't give you a better world, then what weight does that title hold? Getting this show don't come easy, but I don't mind writing that dead away. 'Cause I feel like I could write for 1,000 more years, still have so much to say. I'll tell you when I'm on my way to infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. Well, I do consider myself a blessed man, despite all the things that I am not. And if this calling leads me down this road of redemption, I'll give every gift I've got to always give life and love to your name, and to every end that comes hereafter. Use my pen to write your name on the wind. Use my heart to keep your soul within. Raise my voice into the darkness shatter. I can't wait to hear your laughter in infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. My way to infinity.
Hind Rajab was a 6-year-old Palestinian girl who was tragically killed in Gaza during the Israel-Hamas war in early 2024. Her story drew international attention after she made a desperate phone call for help while trapped in a car with her family under Israeli fire. So, what happened to Hind Rajab? The incident was on January 29, 2024. Hind was traveling in a car with her uncle, aunt, and cousins in Tel al-Hawa, Gaza City, trying to flee the fighting. Their vehicle came under Israeli tank fire, killing everyone except Hind and her 15-year-old cousin, Layan Hamada. Layan called her uncles overseas seeking help. Soon after that, she was shot dead by Israeli forces. Layan and Hind's uncles called the Palestine Red Crescent Society seeking help. Hind stayed on the phone with the PRCS dispatchers for 3 hours, begging for rescue. The audio of Hind's desperate phone call was released by PRCS, where she is heard crying, screaming, and pleading for help. At one point she says, "They're shooting at us. The tank is next to me. I'm so scared. Please come." Later, gunfire is heard, and the call cuts off. There was a failed rescue attempt. The PRCS coordinated with the IDF and sent an ambulance to save her, but it was also targeted by Israeli forces, killing 2 paramedics, Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed al-Madhoun. For 12 days, Hind's fate was unknown until her body was finally recovered near the destroyed car. The UN, WHO, and human rights groups condemned her killing, calling for an investigation. The Israeli military claimed they were targeting militants, but later said they would review the incident. Hind became a symbol of civilian suffering in Gaza, sparking protests and vigils held worldwide. Hind's story shocked the world. Governments and mainstream media remained largely indifferent towards Hind's murder and toward the genocide. But the heartbreaking audio of her sweet little voice in her final moments made her death deeply personal for millions. The targeting of a child and rescue workers raises allegations of war crimes. Hind's name trended globally, with artists, activists, students, and journalists demanding justice. Hind Rajab became a rallying cry for ceasefire demands. Her family continues to seek accountability. The case remains a painful example of the human cost of war, especially for children. The Palestinians condemned the killing as a war crime and called for international investigations into Hind's case to highlight civilian casualties in Gaza, urging the International Criminal Court to action. Her death is clear evidence of Israeli brutality towards Palestinians. Israel was silent, making no immediate official statement for days. Finally, they responded in February 2024. The IDF claimed they were targeting militants in the area and were unaware of civilians in the car. They promised to review the incident, but denied deliberate targeting of Hind or the ambulance. No admission of wrongdoing or apology. The U.S. State Department expressed heartbreak but avoided direct blame, reiterating support for Israel's right to self-defense. The EU and UK called for transparent investigations, but stopped short of condemning Israel. U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib said, "This is genocide. Stop funding it." The UK's Jeremy Corbyn demanded arms embargoes on Israel. The Arab and Muslim majority nations, such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Jordan, strongly condemned Israel at the UN, demanding accountability. Turkey accused Israel of state terrorism, and South Africa cited Hind's death in its ICJ genocide case against Israel. United Nations and human rights groups were louder than most governments. UNICEF said, "This is unconscionable. Gaza is a graveyard for children." The WHO demanded protection for medical workers after the ambulance attack. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch accused Israel of potential war crimes, citing Hind's death and the paramedics' killings. While Western governments avoided strong condemnation, global protests erupted with chants like "Justice for Hind!" Popular music and the student protest movement reflected empathy for Hind, and social media pressure mounted with viral hashtags. Hashtag Hind Rajab, hashtag Gaza genocide. Those paying attention question how in the world Israel's military review found no misconduct. While Hind's death became a rallying cry, Western arms shipments to Israel continued and even increased. Over 14,500 children were killed in Gaza by mid-2024, per UN reports, and as of now, the number is over 20,000, not to mention the many killed, trapped under rubble, and unaccounted for. Over 1,000 children have lost limbs, and an estimated 19,000 children are orphaned. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell called Gaza the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. Israel is deliberately targeting children. No more lies, no more excuses. These are not collateral damage. These are not human shields. These are babies, toddlers, and teenagers, buried under rubble, blown apart by bombs, or left to bleed out alone in the street. If you've ever cared for a child, as a parent, an aunt, or an uncle, as a teacher, as a human being with a heart, can you imagine if this was your child in Gaza right now? Your son screaming for help under the ruins of his home. Your daughter burned by white phosphorus, begging for water. Your nephew, whose tiny body was found in a mass grave, still clutching his toy. What would you do? Would you accept both sides' arguments? Would you wait for the UN to issue a report? Or would you raise your voice, fight, and demand the world stop this genocide? 50% of Gaza's population is children. Gaza's children don't have choices. They only have us. How many more will die before you act? The aggressor is slaughtering the innocent. The occupier is erasing the occupied. The murderer is blaming the victim. This has always been the reality for Palestinians, but the world looked away, made excuses, and called it complicated. No more. The truth is rising now. The screams of Gaza's children cannot be silenced. The bloodstains on Israel's hands cannot be washed away. So I ask you, can you hear them? Can you hear the Palestinian mother wailing over her son's shattered body? Can you hear the toddler buried alive, crying for a rescue that never comes? Can you hear the silence of the world as another hospital burns? Your voice now makes a difference. Will you stand with the killers, or will you finally stand with the oppressed? Enough lies, enough Hasbara talking points, enough dead children. The time to choose is now. Hind should have been celebrating her 7th birthday just 2 weeks ago, Friday, May 2nd, 2025. There should have been balloons, cake, gifts, maybe a dress picked out just for the occasion, a doll to hold close. Her laughter should have filled the house, spilled into the streets, carried to the ears of her loved ones. Her parents, siblings, cousins, friends gathered around her, watching as she blew out 7 tiny candles, cheering as she made a wish. Instead, Hind rests beneath the earth, side by side with her uncle and aunt and cousins. She and 5 of her family members will never see this day, never hear those cheers, never feel the warmth of those embraces. No words can make sense of it. No words can undo it. The question now is, how can we, the living, honor her memory? Can we create a legacy for Hind that will stretch into the future that she will never see? Some good news is that the Hind Rajab Foundation has identified those directly responsible for her killing, along with the deaths of 5 of her family members and the 2 paramedics sent to rescue her. A criminal case has been officially filed at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, charging the perpetrators with war crimes. Remember the name of the individual who led this operation. The commander of the tank division, Beni Aharon, along with his battalion, are responsible for Hind and Leon's deaths. As the leader of the armored brigade that carried out this attack, he and all his team can no longer hide. They will be brought to justice. Justice demands accountability. Let their names and the names of all involved be known. Wissam Rajab, Hind Rajab's mother, has expressed deep sorrow and anger after her 6-year-old daughter was killed in Gaza. She strongly criticized international human rights organizations for failing to rescue Hind. In an emotional message, she said, "You burned my heart over my daughter. I will question you before Allah on the day of judgment because of her." She vowed to raise her daughter's case to international organizations, holding the criminals and their supporters accountable for their inaction. Let's listen together to a clip from Democracy Now! About the murder of Hind Rajab, Leon Hamada, and the 2 paramedics, Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed Al-Madhoun.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We turn to Gaza, to a case that's reverberated around the world. 2 weeks ago, January 29th, 6-year-old Hind Rajab climbed into a car with her aunt, her uncle, and her cousins in Gaza City as they prepared to flee to the southern part of Gaza. But as they were in the car, an Israeli tank approached them and opened fire. Hind's 15-year-old cousin, Leon, called the Red Crescent for help. These were her last words recorded on the call with a Red Crescent dispatcher.
Hello?
Hello, dear.
They are shooting at us.
Hello?
They are shooting at us. The tank is next to me.
Are you hiding?
Yes, in the car. We're next to the tank.
Are you inside the car?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
That was 15-year-old Leon's last words, killed along with the rest of her family. The only one who remained alive was 6-year-old Hind. Wounded, she called the Red Crescent back, pleading with the dispatcher to be rescued.
Come take me. You will come and take me?
Do you want me to come and take you?
I'm so scared. Please come. Please call someone to come and take me.
Okay, dear. I will come and take you.
After seeking approval from the Israeli military, 2 emergency workers with the Palestine Red Crescent, Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed Al-Madhoun, went to try to rescue 6-year-old Hind. But dispatchers lost contact with the medics. Nearly 2 weeks later, Israeli forces finally withdrew from the area, and on Saturday, Hind's surviving family ventured back to the neighborhood. They found Hind dead inside the car, alongside the bodies of 5 of her family members. The car was riddled with bullet holes. The bodies of the 2 emergency workers were also found in an ambulance nearby, appeared to have been killed by Israeli fire just yards away from the car. This is Hind's mother, Wissam Hamada, after she learned of her daughter's killing.
My heart is completely destroyed over my daughter. 2 weeks. They killed them. 2 weeks they were in that car. I've told the world from day one, please go get Hind. God is the only one sufficient for us. Everyone failed us. I will tell God on the day of judgment about my daughter. I swear I will never forgive you or any human involved or any human rights organization.
For more on this case, we're joined now by Nabal Fassah, spokesperson for the Palestine Red Crescent Society, joining us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Nabal, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us everything you know about this case.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. We at the Palestine Red Crescent were heartbroken and devastated again after learning the fate of our colleagues Yusuf, Zaino, and Ahmed al-Madhoun. The ambulance was found bombed just meters away from the car where Hind was trapped. The story began after we have received a call from the uncles of Hind and Layan, who live overseas, reporting that there's 2 little girls are still survived after their family car was targeted by the Israeli tanks. He gave us a phone number, we called, and then Layan picked up the phone, and this is the call which you just preview it. Layan was killed while she was over the phone with our dispatch center, and then we have called the number again, and Hind, which picked up the phone. Hind was supposed to turn into 6 years in May, and now she has lost her life. Over 3 hours, Hind was over the phone with our dispatch center. She was repeatedly seeking help, repeatedly appealing for our teams to come and pick her up. It took us all of this time, over 3 hours, in order to coordinate safe access for our ambulances. And once the green light was given, the ambulance headed to the location, and upon its arrival, they have reported that there is a green laser on them, that the Israeli occupation forces pointing a laser on them. And then we have heard a sound of gunfire or a bombardment. It wasn't that much clear, and the connection was lost. For over 12 days, we were uncertain regarding the fate of our colleagues, Yusuf and Ahmed, and the little girl, Hind. We were thinking that they might be arrested. There was so many questions, like if they were succeeded to rescue Hind or not, because basically also they have confirmed that they can see the car of Hind, and they were so close to Hind. It is just devastated to learn that Hind passed away alone. She was killed alone and scared, and our rescue teams were only meters away from her.
And can you explain the weapon found by the ambulance?
We're not sure regarding the weapon found next to the ambulance. According to reports, it is an artillery shelling, US-made, was found next to the ambulance, which was bombed by the Israeli occupation forces while they were trying to save 6-year-old Hind. It's just so much sad to see paramedics losing their life while they are trying to save people's life. What was the fault of Yusuf and Ahmed? Their fault was they went in a rescue mission to save a 6-year-old girl. It was a coordinated mission, and the green light was given, and Israeli occupation forces intentionally bombed the Palestine Red Crescent ambulance, which has clearly the Red Crescent emblem on top of the ambulance and from all the sides. There was no way or no option to be by mistake. it is an intentional targeting. Since the beginning of the war, we have lost 14 PRCS members. All of them were killed while they were on duty trying to save people's life.
And what does the Israeli military explain to you, given that you got permission for your rescue workers to go rescue Hind as the world heard her 6-year-old pleas for help?
Up to this moment, the Israeli military didn't comment or reply at what happened. And even during the 12 days, we have tried repeatedly, even through the ICRC, to ask the Israeli occupation forces regarding what happened to Hind and the rescue team. And all the time they were mentioning they don't have info regarding this incident. To turn out, after 12 days, they have bombed the ambulance and still they don't have info regarding the incident.
I want to turn to another case. The Palestine Red Crescent has just posted new video online as evidence that their ambulance was shot at and its staff were, quote, brutally assaulted by Israeli forces. PRCS said the video was taken around a week ago and shows a Red Crescent paramedic with 2 black eyes sitting in an ambulance that is pockmarked by bullet holes. The organization says the attack happened as the ambulance crew was delivering oxygen cylinders to Al-Amal Hospital in Gaza. It also stated that Israel had claimed they had transferred the oxygen cylinders to Al-Amal Hospital. Can you explain what took place here in this video that we are watching?
Yes, for over a week, Al-Amal Hospital was run out of oxygen. This has resulted to 3 of our patients died because of the lack of oxygen. After we managed to coordinate getting oxygen cylinders to the hospital via the ICRC, our ambulance heads to bring the oxygen cylinders from Nasser Hospital and transport them to Al-Amal Hospital. In its way, the ambulance, Israeli occupation forces, opened fire at the hospital and they assault and beat our paramedic who was trying to move and transport this oxygen cylinder, which is life-saving for our patients. This is not the first attack because at that moment, also, a week ago, the Israeli occupation forces raided Al-Amal Hospital. They have destroyed medical equipment and they dehumanized the medical staff, patients, and their companions. They arrested 9 of the Palestine Red Crescent members from Al-Amal Hospital, including 4 doctors and a nurse. They have beaten the staff, deny them, not allowing them to drink water or even to go use the toilet, and tie their hands on their backs. The situation is extremely dangerous inside Al-Amal Hospital. We are still extremely worried regarding the safety of our teams who were arrested from Al-Amal Hospital. Today, 2 of them were released, but 7 of our PRCS members still detained up to this moment, who were arrested from inside Al-Amal Hospital. Al-Amal Hospital is under besiege and continuous attack for the 25th day. Today, Israeli occupation forces targeted the 2nd floor of the hospital with artillery shelling. Gladly, only damage for 2 of the nursing rooms, but there was no injuries among the staff or the patients. But the situation remains very dangerous, with Israeli tanks are in front of the hospital, besieging the hospital, continuous gunfire and bombardment surrounding the hospital. No one is able to go in or go out of the hospital. There is no food, no water, extreme shortage of medicine and medical supplies inside the hospital. The situation is beyond dire.
Nabal, I asked you about Israeli response. I want to ask you about the U.S. government response and how important it is. This is a clip of State Department spokesperson Matt Miller at a news conference on Wednesday. He was questioned about the killing of 6-year-old Hind and her family by a reporter from The Intercept, Prem Thacker.
It's been over 2 weeks since Israeli forces attacked Hind Rajab's family, killing her aunt, uncle, and cousins. leaving her trapped alone in her vehicle. We heard her pleas to the Red Crescent Society. 2 medics were sent, all to be blown up allegedly by Israeli forces. I wanted to ask about the status of the inquiry into this, just because it seems if the Israeli government, which seemingly does have a pretty sophisticated operation, is prioritizing this, and they don't already know which soldiers to interview, for instance. They have Red Crescent calls, timestamps, the location of the Red Crescent staff to, question and rely on. Plenty of material to figure out who exactly to inquire with and to figure out who to hold accountable. So I want to first ask about the status of this investigation.
Sure. So I think that question is appropriately directed to the government of Israel. I will say on behalf of the United States, we have made clear to them that we want that incident to be investigated. They have told us they are investigating it. It's our understanding that investigation is not yet complete. Should direct questions to them about where it stands, but we want to see it completed as soon as possible. And as I said from this podium several days ago, if accountability is appropriate, we want to see accountability put in place.
Naval Parsak, we just have 30 seconds. That's the State Department spokesperson. How important is pressure from the United States and Israel, as you talked about a U.S. weapon being found near the shelled ambulance?
It is extremely important. The life and the story of Hind should not be end in this way. We're talking about 6-year-old girl. She was trapped in her family car for hours after everyone was killed and targeted by Israeli occupation forces. During this, even 2 paramedics who went to rescue the 6-year-old girl was also targeted, and their ambulance was bombed. We need to see actions happened and to put Israel accountable for committing such crime against a 6-year-old girl and civilians who were trapped in their car.
We thank you so much for joining us, spokesperson for Palestine Red Crescent.
Infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond.
Breaking Points has released another report on the killing of Hind Rajab. Let's listen together as Crystal Ball shares her perspective.
All right, what are you taking a look at?
On January 29th, a harrowing call came into the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. A 6-year-old girl, Hind Rajab, was trapped, being shot at by Israeli occupation forces. Every other family member in the car had already been killed. In a call that lasted for hours, the terrified child begged the Red Crescent to please come and rescue her. Come take me, she says. Come take you? Please, I'm scared. Come quick. Call someone to come take me. Please. Okay, my dear, I will come and take you. Now a volunteer from the Red Crescent is coordinating so we can come and take you. And you hear gunfire. There's gunfire around you? Yes, come take me. My dear, I swear, I want to take you, but I can't right now. The family had been attempting to flee Gaza City. Hind's mother and older siblings were attempting the trek by foot. But because of the cold and the rain, Hind's mother sent her in the car with her aunt, uncle, and cousins, thinking this would be safer and less arduous for her baby girl. But in a destroyed suburb of Gaza City, the car came under fire by the IDF. Now, the first call into the Red Crescent actually came from Hind's 15-year-old cousin, Leon. Leon told them her parents and siblings had already been killed. They are shooting at us. The tank is next to me. The call ended amid rapid gunfire and terrified shrieks. Next came that desperate call from Hind herself. The Red Crescent jumped into action to try to rescue this child. They reached out to the IDF in an attempt to secure safe passage for their ambulance and for the rescuers, using standard deconfliction practices to keep their own medics from coming under fire. For hours, they waited to hear back from the Israelis as Hind pleaded for help, telling them to please come, that she was afraid of the dark. Finally, after 3 long hours, the Red Crescent got the green light. The ambulance had been cleared to move to Hind's location. According to the Red Crescent dispatcher, it wasn't long before that ambulance also came under IDF fire. Quote, first, the paramedics said the Israeli forces are putting laser lights on them, and then we heard a gunfire sound before we lost the connection. It was like a gunfire or explosion. We were not sure of what happened. For days, the Red Crescent heard nothing from their medics, and the heavy IDF presence made it too dangerous to send any additional rescuers. The organization was left to post desperate pleas to the public on their social media channels, alerting the world to Hind's plight. Finally, on Saturday, after 12 days of worrying and no news, all of our worst fears were confirmed. Israeli troops moved out, and Hind's family was able to return to the area and locate the destroyed vehicle where Hind had issued her final desperate plea. In the car were the decomposing remains of Hind alongside her cousins, including Leon and her aunt and her uncle. And just out of reach, maybe a block away, was the charred remains of the ambulance which had been sent to rescue this little girl, who instead spent her final moments alone and completely terrified. Red Crescent crew Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed Al-Madoun were also murdered by the IDF in spite of being in a van clearly marked ambulance and in spite of having received explicit permission for the operation by the IDF. Now, you can see in this video, first you're looking here at the ambulance, and then within sight, down the road, is the car where Hind spent her final hours. Now, you can imagine these medic heroes so close to Hind, barely out of reach when their vehicle was targeted and their own lives taken. I hope all of these souls rest in peace, their final agony and torment now at an end. Targeting an ambulance, it's a war crime. Killing children, other civilians, also war crimes. There was no fighting ongoing in the area between Hamas and the IDF, so these vehicles were themselves targeted, not accidentally caught in the crossfire. Hind and Leon now take their place among the more than 13,000 Palestinian kids who've been killed by Israel since their assault on Gaza began. This is carnage that Joe Biden describes weekly as, quote, over the top. No. This is massacring children, targeting medics, pushing an already terrorized and displaced people to God knows where. This is not over the top. This is genocide. The IDF has yet to comment on this particular atrocity. Perhaps they need some time to fabricate a Hamas command and control center under the ambulance, or an intercepted audio recording of 6-year-old Hind revealing she's actually a hardened Hamas terrorist. Liberal Western media jumped in to signal their concern with the most sanitized and accountability-free Orwelling language possible. As noted by academic Asal Rad, the premier outlets of Western journalism, The Times, The Post, CNN, and the BBC, all failed to use the word killed or to so much as mention Israel in their headlines about Hind's murder. New York Times' choice here is emblematic. Quote, missing 6-year-old and rescue team found dead in Gaza, aid group says, as if they just dropped dead under mysterious circumstances. Now, for the American taxpayers who are listening to this, you should also know that your tax dollars funded this horror. Shell fragments from an American-made M830A1 were found at the scene of the bombed-out Red Crescent ambulance. State Department spokesperson Matt Miller was asked about Hind's killing and the use of American-made weapons. As usual, he really had nothing to say.
On the killing of 6-year-old Hind Rajab after an Israeli tank targeted their family car in Gaza, the Geneva-based nonprofit Euromed Human Rights Monitor determined that the IDF is responsible for the bombing of the ambulance that attempted to rescue Hindi. And it also reported that American-made weapons was found at the bombed ambulance. Have you seen that report, and do you have any response?
Yeah, we are devastated about the reports of the death of Hind Rajab. I will tell you that I have a little girl that's about to turn 6 myself, and so it is just a devastating account, a heartbreaking account for this child, and of course there have been thousands of other children who have died as a result of this conflict. And every one of them is a tragedy that I can tell you everyone in the United States government feels quite deeply. We have asked the Israeli authorities to investigate this incident on an urgent basis. We understand that they are doing so. We expect to see those results on a timely fashion, and they should include accountability measures as appropriate.
Accountability measures as appropriate. Not going to hold my breath on that one. Secretary of State Tony Blinken says he will spend the rest of his life thinking about the thousands of children killed in Gaza. I hope he and all the other criminals with blood on their hands will be haunted by Hind's face for every single second of the rest of their days. I hope they can't sleep at night, imagining her final moments of terror. Unfortunately, I doubt any of them has enough of a soul left to even care. But make no mistake, while some have more direct culpability than others, the truth is we all failed Leon. We failed Yusuf, we failed Ahmed, and we all failed Hind. As Israel sets its sights now on Rafah, remember, millions of innocents, just like Hind and Leon, are sheltering there, seeking refuge with literally nowhere else to go. Each loss as devastating and tragic as that of this heartbreakingly adorable little girl who will now never see her 7th birthday. Bombs stamped Made in America, snuffing out these precious lives, and our president occasionally emerging from his fog to issue a weak protestation while rushing to ship more deadly child-killing weapons. And Sagar, on that interaction...
You are listening to This Week in Palestine.
Infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. Infinity and beyond. Infinity and...
Before we end our episode today, let's listen to a poem by Amal Ahmed Albaz. Amal is a mother, journalist, poet, and speaker known for her thought-provoking work on social and political issues. She completed her journalism degree at Ryerson University in 2015 and currently works as a reporter for the Toronto Star. She is also recognized for her spoken word poetry, which often explores themes of identity, justice, and human rights. Her performances and writings have gained attention for their emotional depth and powerful storytelling. Additionally, Amal has been vocal about advocating for her father, Yasser Ahmed Albaz, a Canadian citizen who was detained in Egypt in 2019. She has called on the Canadian government to intervene and bring him home. You can explore more of her work on YouTube at Amal Ahmed Albaz. Let's listen to her.
The people awaken, outspoken, unshaken. Go, shut our accounts. We know you know our count. That's why we're a threat. We simply make you sweat. If the G word is banned, it means you understand there is blood on your hands. Go censor and delete. Let history repeat. Politicians, two-faced. Our votes, what a waste. They're sly as a fox with their self-righteous talks. There must be judgment day, 'cause there is a price to pay. I heard a child scream. I wish this was a dream. This is reality. Shame on humanity. Time is ticking by. The world is standing by. But decades from today, we can proudly say I felt a fire in my chest. And I passed this test. At least we say we tried to end this genocide.
You are listening to This Week in Palestine.
Juliet, thank you for your amazing reporting on Hind Rajab. Since we have some additional time, I would like to add a clip from the Zitiyo podcast. It repeats everything you reported, but it's important to hear from many different perspectives, especially on a matter known to millions of people around the world. Let's listen together to the Zitiyo reporting.
I'm about to take you into the story of an unsolved crime I've been following for a year now. The story is of the Israeli military's killing of Hind Rajab and how the U.S. has, after a whole year, refused to hold Israel accountable. And the question remains, why? The world knows who this little girl was.
Her name is Hind Rajab.
6-year-old Hind.
Hind Rajab.
Hind was among 6 bodies found inside this car.
January 29th, 6-year-old Hind Rajab.
It's now 197 days since Hind Rajab was killed.
She kept begging, come get me. Her 6-year-old daughter, Hind Rajab, was killed.
They heard her and her cousin begging for help on the phone. After those 2 girls witnessed their family get killed right in front of them, student protesters named campus buildings in honor of her. Macklemore wrote a song inspired by her. The reason Hind Rajab's case matters so much is that she is one of the most well-known victims of Israel's genocidal campaign in Gaza. Meaning, if there's any chance of the U.S. holding Israel accountable for what seems like completely evident war crimes, you'd think it might start with the case of a little girl millions of people know about. And so, if after a year we cannot get a single actual update from the US and Israel on what's being done in response to this killing, one that doesn't immediately crumble after being even slightly interrogated, what can we expect about the thousands and thousands of other kids Israel has killed in Gaza? The story of Hind Rajab is a story of a horrific killing. It's also the story of how the United States treats Israel with total, complete, unparalleled impunity. Let me explain what I'm talking about. It's now been 1 whole year since Israeli forces killed 6-year-old Hind Rajab, her family members, and the paramedics sent to save her. On January 29th, 2024, Hind was packed into a Kia with 6 of her family members as they sought to flee the violence surrounding them in Gaza, only to be met with exactly what they were retreating from. The Israeli military had issued an evacuation order that morning, telling Palestinians in West Gaza City to move south. But that wasn't possible for Hind and her family, as the road was blocked by wreckage from a recently bombed building. They instead planned to go north, out of the evacuation zone and towards their family home. But after driving less than a quarter of a mile, an Israeli army tank attacked the vehicle, killing Hind's aunt and uncle and most of their children. Hind survived the initial attack with her cousin, Layan. As the young duo reeled in the aftermath of the attack, terrified and bleeding, Layan had made contact with the Palestine Red Crescent Society, a Red Cross organization.
انتوا متخبيين؟ في السيارة احنا جنبين الدبابة. انتوا جوا السيارة؟ Hello?
The Red Crescent called back. Hind answered. Layan had been killed.
ميتين؟ وهم هلا معك بالسيارة؟ حبيبتي والله لو بإيدي رأيكي.
The Red Crescent told the Gaza Ministry of Health and Israeli authorities about the situation, about Hind, and where she was. After Israeli forces gave them the okay, the Red Crescent then sent 2 paramedics, Ahmed Al-Madoun and Youssef Zaino, in an ambulance to save little Hind as she desperately begged for help, again, surrounded by the bodies of her family who were killed in front of her. As they approached, they told dispatchers that a green laser was pointed in front of them. And, just as with Layan, catastrophe was heard before the line went silent.
خليك معي شايف السيارة أنت؟ مش شايف مشغل السرينة واللواح؟
Israeli forces destroyed the ambulance, less than 200 feet away from where Hind was. After the explosion, Hind grew more and more silent on her call with the Red Crescent, and the dispatchers soon lost contact with her. Word began to spread of the missing girl, as her whereabouts and well-being remained unknown to the public for nearly 2 weeks. Where's Hind became a worldwide rallying call. On February 10th, after endless search pleas from Hind's parents and the Red Crescent, Hind, along with her family, were found dead in their destroyed car, which was now littered with bullets. In a video with Middle East Eye, Hind's mother shared her grief to the world.
أنا والدتها لهند اللي كنتوا بتستنوا فيها من أسبوعين، هند مستشفى بالسيارة إلى أسبوعين، أنا توجهت من أول يوم وهند مصابة فيه وأنت حكيت لكم روحوا جيبوا هند، حسبي الله كل واحد اتخاذل.
How could this have happened? A family packed into a car fleeing violence, only to be met with brutal, unfeeling, targeted attacks by the force that directed them to move. Israel was quick to deny the accusations, claiming that their forces were not in the area that day. But of course, the testimony from the Red Crescent, the obliterated car and ambulance, and the recording of Hind's final words proved otherwise. Over the past year, I and other reporters have pressed the U.S. time and again on the killing. The Biden administration slightly evolved its messaging over time, but the consequent effect was the same: deflection and deference to Israel. In the early aftermath of the attack, I pointed out that the Israeli government had plenty of material for investigation, if they were serious about carrying it out. The location, the heart-wrenching emergency phone call Hind and her cousin made, timestamps, plenty of material to deduce which soldiers to interview and whom to possibly hold accountable. And yet a year has passed. First, the U.S. feigned concern for Hind and said they expected a timely resolution.
We are devastated about the reports of the death of Hind Rajab. We have asked the Israeli authorities to investigate this incident on an urgent basis. We understand that they are doing so. We expect to see those results on a timely fashion.
But quickly, that urgency faded.
Any updates on Hind Rajab's, the investigation into the killing of Hind Rajab's family and the paramedics sent to save her?
I don't have an update. My understanding is that the investigation is ongoing. Investigations in some cases take time.
Is there an update on the investigation into that attack?
I don't have anyone. I'm happy to go back and get you the latest.
Okay.
They deferred to Israel to investigate itself for murder.
The government of Israel has said that they are conducting. You should go to them for questions about what they may or may not be doing.
This investigation is still ongoing, and I will leave it to them to speak to the details of it.
All I can tell you is what they've told us.
When confronted with facts and reporting from top-tier news outlets, they resisted the facts.
I'm not on the ground. I can't offer any kind of assessment about this. I can't speak on behalf of either the Israelis or the NGOs about what is true and what isn't. So I think there is an underlying factual dispute that I can't speak to.
And ultimately, their defense crumbled under scrutiny. In June, the U.S. said that Israel told them they tried reaching out to bodies like the Palestine Red Crescent for the investigation, but that they didn't respond.
What they told us is that they went to the UN organizations, they went to the Palestinian Red Crescent, they asked for information that they could use to further an investigation, and no one provided them with any information.
I asked if the U.S. fact-checked the Israeli government's claim. The answer was no.
Will you move to verify those claims?
It is not for us to do it.
So I went ahead and fact-checked for them. The Red Crescent refuted the Israeli claim, telling me they never received such outreach by the Israeli government. As I've asked about the apparent lie repeatedly, the U.S. State Department has just chalked it up as a dispute of facts, one they expressed no interest in clarifying themselves.
And I know the Red Crescent has said something different. We're not in a position to ultimately adjudicate which bit of information is accurate and which is not.
At the same time, as the U.S. was busy backing Israel's illusion of an investigation, independent investigators from UK-based research group Forensic Architecture discovered satellite imagery confirming that Israeli tanks were just meters away from Hind and her family's car on January 29th, the day they were killed, contrary to Israel's claims that they weren't in the area.
When the Israeli military was asked about this, they denied. They said they were not present on the site, but we have satellite imagery from the day that shows this. The time of this satellite imagery is in fact very close to the first recording of a call between Hind's vehicle and the Red Crescent.
In addition, through a ballistic analysis and examining the tank's distance from Hind's car, Forensic Architecture also found that it was, quote, not plausible, unquote, that Israeli forces could not have seen who they shot 335 bullets at. So either they knew they were shooting at children, or they just didn't care to look.
The shooter would have had a clear vision of what it is that is shooting, that there are two kids in this car that they're shooting, and it would have known, right? So which is a war crime.
When reporters asked about Forensic Architecture's conclusion, the State Department also absent-mindedly echoed Israel's claims that there were no tanks in the area.
We went to the government of Israel and pressed them for information, and they told us that there were no IDF tanks operating in the area, no IDF forces operating in the area at the time of that attack.
The claim that there were no tanks in the area was not just disproven by Forensic Architecture, but also the Washington Post and Sky News, as well as that original call we heard from Hind.
هي جاية عليكي من قدام السيارة الدبابة؟ قريب كتير؟
Unfortunately, the Biden administration's response to Hind's killing was simply a larger reflection of a much broader, systematic disregard for Palestinian children. Over 17,400 children in Gaza have been killed by Israel since October 7th, not just with U.S. weapons, but through starvation, disease, and more recently, trying to brave freezing temperatures. And still, when it came to helping those children, the most the Biden administration had to offer were disingenuous attempts to increase aid and months of empty ceasefire promises.
My hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
There must be an immediate ceasefire.
That's why I've called for an immediate ceasefire.
The president understands how important it is to get a ceasefire.
The ceasefire proposal that we are trying to get done.
Now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done.
When confronted about the mounting death toll of Palestinian children, the Biden administration responded the exact same way they did with Hind, feigning concern.
It is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers.
Deferring to Israel.
I am not the IDF spokesman. You should be asking Admiral Hagari that question. He's the IDF spokesman.
And rejecting the facts.
I have no notion that the Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed.
But of course, when it came to alleged war crimes against Israeli children, specifically the beheading of Israeli babies by Hamas, an allegation that proved to be a lie, the U.S. passionately condemned those crimes.
Terrorists beheading children.
A depravity and inhumanity directed at babies.
Children slaughtered, babies slaughtered, entire families massacred.
The unspeakable horrors they perpetrated on innocent people, women, children, the elderly, babies.
Do everything cutting babies' heads off.
Such claims, including the lies, were used to help whip up massive bipartisan support to send billions more in U.S. tax dollars to kill thousands more Palestinian kids, whose deaths warranted none of the same response. The response to Israeli kids being killed, or even lies about them being killed, was billions more in weapons. The response to scores more Palestinian kids being killed by those weapons was, well, more Palestinian kids being killed. In fact, the Biden administration didn't even see them as kids who were killed or murdered in brutal and horrifying ways. Rather, they talked about Palestinian children as if they simply died, with no perpetrator and no assassin.
Thousands of Palestinian children have died.
The images of dead children.
Dozens of children dead.
The Biden administration again and again claimed that they were urging Israel to take action on the matter, like they claimed with Hind. But it's no secret, including to the U.S., that this is a country famous for refusing to hold their military to account. A country that consistently tries to write off their long list of war crimes as lies, accidents, or simply the fault of their claimed enemy.
These incidents are not taking place haphazardly. There are patterns to these incidents, and these patterns speak to intentionality.
In the years since the killing of Hind, her family, and the paramedics sent to save her, I and others repeatedly asked the U.S. government about the incident, the supposed investigations into it, and how the U.S. could continue sending Israel money and weapons if it could not get straightforward answers on the case. Such has been the glaring, self-evident tension with every single child, sibling, parent, doctor, aid worker, and journalist Israel has killed. U.S. law prohibits the government from providing military assistance to countries committing human rights violations. While the Biden administration found that Israel likely violated international humanitarian law with American-made weapons, it never acted on the conclusion, and in fact, sent more military aid and released more funds to Israel to buy more U.S. weapons, with Biden even approving an $8 billion arms deal to Israel in the final days of his presidency. And that will be his legacy, a president committed to carrying out a decades-long U.S. tradition, a tradition of disregard for Palestinian life, even the most innocent.
We are officially out of time. If you have any questions or would like to support us in any way, please email us at twippodcasts@gmail.com. I would like to thank you for listening and thank the team that is working behind the scenes to make this show happen. Many thanks to Bob Funk, Stanley Robinson, Stephen Lowe, Professor Ann Lucas, Sophia Rose Woolman, Lish Tran, Tahani Abu Mosa, Dr. Bethany Marks, Dr. Rana Awad, and Mohammed Al-Ghul. This Week in Palestine is a production of Truth and Justice Radio, currently at the home of WZBC Student Radio at Boston College. As always, we thank you for spending your time with us today as we continue to work towards Palestinian liberation. See you next week.